Good afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Providence Holy Cross Medical Center and Comfort Keeps in-home care. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Thomas Pilecki.
On your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our first guest this morning, our only guest today, is my co-host, Dr. Thomas Pilecki.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing?
It's good to be back.
This is strange, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. That's okay. I think we'll make it through. So today I want to talk about something important, and that is a holistic approach to relief for chronic conditions. So what does chronic conditions mean? Half of the Americans right now are suffering with at least one chronic condition, and nearly a third have several chronic conditions that account for 70% of all deaths in America, and it requires 86% of our healthcare dollars.
Whoa.
It's staggering.
Those are unbelievable numbers.
It's literally trillions of dollars every year go into something that is, believe it or not, avoidable. And those numbers are coming from the CDC. It's not like I'm sharing some crazy numbers here. This is easy enough to find. Please fact check it if you don't want to believe me for whatever reason.
I believe you. Everything you have said, as far as I'm concerned, has been believable.
Thank you.
Because I'm doing a lot of what you suggested.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit today too. But first I need to ask, did you see Bobby Jr., RFK Jr.?
Yes.
Did you see his speech?
Yes.
Was it disturbing to you, or did you find it like, wow, okay, finally somebody's talking about this?
I didn't find it disturbing at all. I found it very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, my question is, regardless of your political affiliation, how bad does it have to be for a Kennedy to go to work for Trump? I mean, you got to think about this for a second.
Well, when he said it, I almost fell out my chair.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, what? But it's interesting. The Kennedys have had lots and lots of problems.
Uh-huh.
And they're all over the news when it occurs.
Uh-huh.
And one thing leads to another.
Uh-huh.
And it seems like there's no end in sight.
Okay.
That's just the way I see it.
All right. Well, I believe that if there is to be any further U.S. history, it will agree with Bobby and me on his speech, on what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. And it boils down to personal sovereignty and the responsibility that comes with that. Now, what does that mean when it's applied to health? Well, I created this platform, Get Better, and the better, there's a little twist on the end. It's the RX, so it's Get Better X. I created this entire platform as if I was making it in response to what Bobby was talking about in his speech. However, I did this decades ago. So I've been fighting this fight for a very long time.
Well, why don't you briefly synopsize what he said so that our listeners, if they didn't hear it or watch it, knows what you're talking about?
Sure. So the interesting thing to me, which I found for very, very challenging for the past, 4 years, has been freedom of speech, specifically when it comes to my passion, which is healthcare, right? So there's been the company line about everything going on. And then anybody who speaks out against it gets in trouble, including me. So I've seen it firsthand. This is not theory. I've experienced it. So he talks about how there is a suppression of freedom of speech in America like never before. And his passion, like mine, is healthcare. He talks about how we Americans have the worst healthcare statistics on the planet. You know, he gave some examples of countries that are doing better than us, third world countries
Right.
that are doing better than us. And we're paying more than double of our closest competitors for those horrible results. And then he pointed out the reasons for that happening. You know, there is a monopoly on healthcare in this country, and it's got nothing to do with health. It's got to do with, profit margins. And when there's that kind of money at stake, and I am talking trillions,
Yes.
not with a M,
Yes.
not with a B, but with a TR, trillions. When there's trillions of dollars, that buys a lot of power.
That's an understatement.
That buys a lot of media influence. That buys a lot of laws being put or actions being put into place. So regardless of what you think of the man personally, I really gave a lot of points to Donald Trump for giving Bobby that platform to get up there and talk about this, because he's been trying for a very long time, and the first person that gives him that kind of coverage is the one that everybody hates. So, there's that. And that's the end of my political rant, because this isn't about politics. This is so much bigger than politics. I think that whole scene is just a puppet show to keep us distracted from what's really going on anyway.
Yes.
But let's talk about that for a little bit. So Bobby talked about, the suppression of information and what is actually being suppressed. The fact that our kids are sicker than ever, regardless of what you believe about how healthcare should be administered in this country, our stats don't support what is going on right now.
That's right.
Our kids are sicker than ever. Mm-hmm. Our lifespan has been dropping continuously long before the pandemic, and nothing has changed for the better. So, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, because I just want to set the preface for what the alternative is, what I believe the only answer is. And it just so happens that I align a lot with Bobby Jr.
Yes.
Like, he's right on target with
Yes.
this. I mean, exactly on target with this. I could have wrote his speech. So I'm thrilled that finally somebody with that kind of platform is saying what's need to be said.
And not afraid to say it.
And not afraid to say it.
And that's what I like about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is forthcoming, and I mean it.
Yeah.
And this is the fact.
Yep. So again, the reason I'm doing this show and the reason I created this platform is not because of Bobby's speech. This has been around for a while, but because of the reason that Bobby had to make that speech in the first place and got to make that speech in the first place. The same passions that we have, seeing our healthcare system just implode on itself. And this isn't a recent event. I don't want to get into too much of the history of when this started, because it started a long time ago. I mean, longer than anybody commonly thinks about. I mean, this is over 100 years in the making. It's not just a recent event, but where it is right now is at a tipping point. is at a tipping point. It's unsustainable.
And it's dangerous.
It's unsustainable and dangerous. So let's just say those are the same reasons that I came up with the Get Better platform. And it's the hub of the Get Better platform is the website, which we're fortunate enough to have a screenshot of here. And that's where it all branches out from. From this website, you get an idea. It's essentially a how-to guide of bespoke nutrition instead of fad diets, of the more appropriate, a more personal approach towards chronic pain, digestive issues, and hormonal imbalances, which account for the overwhelming majority of that 86% of health costs in the United States, which is completely avoidable. Completely avoidable. So in correlation with what Bobby was talking about, this is the how-to guide. This is not leaving anything up to the imagination or, as far as I'm concerned, debate. I don't believe there is any debate about the numbers that he was throwing around. Of course, there will be some people who say, "Oh no, that's all bad,"
That's
but it's
hogwash.
pretty accurate. And
Yes, he's done his research.
yeah, he's been fighting the fight. I think he's a good guy.
I do
I
too.
think he's a good guy.
I do too. And I think the Trump organization, or whatever you want to call it, is fortunate to have him.
Yeah, for sure.
Really?
Absolutely, without a question. Because I believe, my audience, my fans are smart. I believe I represent the 60% of people out there who just want to live and maybe live a little bit better, and not the 20% on either side of the extremes that is making it harder and harder for anybody in the middle to make a life for themselves. And I believe that's where Bobby's coming from. That's certainly where I'm coming from, because the extremes are the ones that get the news lines, that get the attention, good and bad. And I don't think we can keep it there. We're closer to civil war than we ever have been, besides the actual Civil War. I mean, it's bad out there. It is bad. There is a gestalt. There is a knee-jerk reaction, whether you say you're for this one or for that one, and that's really not the point. In fact, that is the point. That is the point that the puppeteers are making sure that this country is divided.
Well, of course.
Because it's easier to control that way.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be even better if the country actually fell apart. And that's disturbing on so many levels. But again, I'm sorry. Let's talk about healthcare instead. So this is the hub. Get Better X is the hub. It gives an incredible amount of information, but it is just the jump, the starting point. It's where you can access my channel, my YouTube channel, which literally has hundreds of how-to videos on it. I am in competition with some so-called functional medicine gurus who, will charge $350. And I can say this because it is fresh. It's a fresh wound for me. I get people calling me just this week. Someone called me and said, I heard you do that functional medicine, but I'm going to tell you my recent experience. I just went to somebody who charged me $350 for the consultation and didn't really tell me anything, didn't give me any actionable advice, just tried to upsell me to a package that was going to cost me $5,000 of their supplements and their automated coaching system online, Like, I wasn't even going to see them except for a couple of times for a checkup. And meanwhile, they want $5,000 up front. And they charged me $350 to make that sales presentation to me. And I was like, well, that's a problem. That's a problem. We don't do that here.
Good
I mean, you've
yes.
seen me in action.
Absolutely. For
And
years.
I give more free information on my channel, on my website,
And personally.
Yes. But even for strangers
Even as
that
a client.
never, especially for my clients, but even for people that never want to spend a dime with me, I give more real, practical, applicable stuff that you can use right away. I give more information away for free than any of those $5,000 packages. So that's another thing. It's not just an evil empire out there of, big pharma or anything like that. It's our healthcare industry, even the alternative healthcare industry, I think is irreparably broke. It's so badly damaged on so many different levels. And even the people you think are there on your side, there to protect you, there to take care of you when things go horribly wrong, are involved in the problem instead of the solution. So that's why I created this. And I do. Please fact check. Take a look at the information. I invite you to scrutinize this website, my channel, the store, the ingredients of the products that I have handpicked to make my product line, and you can speak to some of the products yourself. And I mean,
Well,
it would be truly disturbing if there wasn't any kind of option out there, if all you could do was expect the same from anybody, no matter where you went. But I'm saying there is an option. There are still some people who care, both in the conventional medicine and in the alternative world. But I think it's getting harder and harder to find.
Well, let me speak to my experience with you. I've been coming to you or seeing you for what, 20 years?
Yeah, something like
Pretty
that.
close
Sure,
to it.
yeah.
And you've helped me through 2 cancers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost 88. And I'm in good health
Pretty functional.
for my age and what I've gone through.
Yeah.
And in fact, my daughter and my son insist on me bringing my walking sticks, although I've been walking without them. But they say, no, Mother, you bring them with you.
Yeah, I'm on board with your family support on this. I think you should have those walking sticks regardless. I'm thrilled.
Yes, my daughter.
I think I trust you that you feel stable enough that you don't need them. But I like them, 1, just in case, and 2, I like that it actually engages the upper body as part of your walking.
That's true. It does.
So
It really does.
I think it supercharges the absolutely best functional medicine on the planet. Walking is the best functional medicine on the planet.
Now, when I go out and walk without my sticks, I do use my arms.
Mm-hmm.
I move my arms up and down.
Yeah.
Because that helps, believe it or not, it helps steady me.
Yep.
Because if my arms are down by my side and they're
Yeah.
not moving, I have a tendency to go sideways.
Yeah.
And that's what's helped me.
The
It's like
incredible thing is we are some of the best walkers in creation. We are uniquely designed to walk incredibly long distances and do it very well. But very few people even do the bare minimum anymore. And that's a big part of the problem that we'll get to when we get back from our first break. I want to get into some of the how-to stuff that is covered both in the website, Get Better X, certainly the YouTube channel, which is, there's a link to it at Get Better X. You just use the Get Better X website as the jumping off point, and I'd also like in the second segment to get a little bit into the store and the products that you know
Yes.
are a better quality than pretty much anything else you can get out there. When we get back from the break, you're listening to the Senior Hour, and I've hijacked it for today. It's the Get Better X show, KHTS FM 98.1 AM 1220 hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Pilecki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And my guest now is my co-host, Dr. Thomas Pilecki.
Yeah.
And let's continue.
Yeah. So, Barb, you can attest because you've been working with me not just on air, but as a client.
Yes.
For a minute or two, and we've gotten you through some pretty big health challenges.
That's true, and I think the major part of it started after the automobile accident that Russ and I were in.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know how bad that was, I really want you to share.
It was extremely bad. I was going across Sierra Highway on a green light, and a guy in a truck slammed into the side of me. He ran the red light, and he was an older man. He was in his late 80s, and that came right into the side of me and did a lot of damage, plus it did to Russ.
Yeah.
And we both were taken to the hospital.
Yeah, but you're skipping ahead a little bit. Well, how did you get out of the car?
They had to literally remove the door that was at the driver's door to get me
jaws
out.
of life. They had to cut the car in half to get you out of it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So this isn't a fender bender.
Oh, no, absolutely not a fender bender. It was a very severe accident, actually. And for all intents and purposes, I'm lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
I really am, because it was bad. And after I got out of the hospital, I immediately came to you. And you helped me tremendously. Not twisting and turning like the regular chiropractors do, but you did a lot of pulse and vibration and movement with me lying on my stomach.
Yeah.
That was not twisting and turning.
Right.
And which is the type of chiropractic that you do.
Yeah.
And
so from a senior perspective, not just a senior perspective, but someone who's just been literally cut out of a crushed car, what can you say about that technique as opposed to what you experienced before you met me?
It was healing, and it didn't hurt.
Would you consider getting twisted and jerked on?
No.
After that kind of an experience?
Never.
Yep.
Never. No, absolutely never. And I think, weren't we working at the station?
Oh,
No.
yeah.
I don't know.
We've been on
I've
air
lost
for
time.
20 years.
Yeah.
We've been working together longer than you've been a patient.
Yes.
Because you weren't my patient when we first started doing the show.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what it was. I knew there was a connection there, but
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you get older, your mind says bye-bye a little bit.
So what's my excuse? But okay, great. So I just wanted to try to make the point that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And unfortunately, the people who get the most attention in any form of media, social media or otherwise, are the extremists, the people who are doing crazy stuff that isn't really necessarily good for anybody, right? So when you think of chiropractic, you don't think of what goes on in my office. You
No,
think of the other stuff that you see on those crazy YouTube
That's
videos.
right. Well, that's what I used to go to.
Yeah.
I used to go to a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And, 'cause I was in an accident many, many years ago. And I went to one of those that twisted and turned you, and it was absolutely frightening because I always felt like I was going to be rolled off the bed.
Yeah.
And your type of chiropractic is so much more relaxing,
Well, thank you.
and it does the job.
Yeah. That's the most important part, because a lot of people think that other one, if for whatever reason they want to try that, and I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail about this, if for whatever reason they think that is appropriate for them, they don't believe that something so precise as what I'm doing could possibly do the same thing.
Oh, let me tell you, everybody listening, that was the best chiropractic treatment I had. And it helped me tremendously get over a really, really, really bad car accident. And I'm here alive to tell you about it.
Thank
and
you.
I also use all of your medicines that what do
Yeah.
you call them?
Supplements.
Supplements.
They're supplements. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that segue.
I use them all.
Yeah. So yeah, on the website Get Better X, there's links. There's links to the store. There's links to my YouTube channel. There's links to the books that I've written. But let's talk about the links to the store, because I believe there are some really important things that need to be addressed. Bobby started, RFK Jr., started addressing them in that speech, which I believe should be mandatory review of every. I just think everybody should see it. Everybody should see what he's talking about, because for the first time that I can remember, someone's saying what needs to be said. So let's talk about that for a second. One of the things that he addressed was forever chemicals, which are showing up in pregnant mothers, in children, in newborns, and throughout life that are, I don't want to get too deep into this, but there's tens of thousands of very sickening chemicals in our environment, in our food, air, and water, that we're exposed to on a daily basis that didn't even exist when you were born, Barb. Tens of thousands of chemicals that were never present throughout all of history. And now our bodies have to try to deal with these things, and it's literally making people very, very sick.
Very sick, yes.
So our answer to that is something we call daily detox. It's just a food concentrates. It's superfood concentrates that we put together 50 superfoods. You know what a superfood is, right? Something like, let's just say, broccoli, right? Or let's say blueberries, something like that, or turmeric. You know, these things are not just empty calories. They are powerful medicine.
Yes.
You know, food is medicine. But the problem is you have to eat a lot of food to get that little tiny bit of medicine out of it, unless you concentrate it. And then all of a sudden you've got all the medicine without all the calories, right? So we concentrate 50 superfoods to get the medicine out of them and really make food medicine. I mean, powerful medicine to combat those tens of thousands of chemicals that we're introduced to every day in our food, water, air. And I believe this is kind of important to address this, because that stuff just accumulates and accumulates and accumulates in your tissues unless you're detoxing from it. So I actually helped create this formula. It's not just something that I found online and slapped my label on it.
in there, isn't
Yeah.
it?
We found a bunch of superfoods that actually go not just on the into your blood, or not just into your muscles, or crosses the blood-brain barrier, which is an important one, and not just into the cells, but it goes, we have some ingredients in here that goes all the way down to the DNA to help detoxify and help draw out all of those things that, a lot of doctors will poo-poo and say, oh, there's toxins. Give me an example of toxins. I'm like, seriously? Are you really going to take that stance that we're not living in a very toxic environment? So this is designed to go in there and pull as much of that stuff as possible out of your body, and it's just a little scoop that you can put in water. It tastes good enough. There's no artificial sweeteners or flavors or any of that stuff that will get in the way of the liver, the kidneys, the digestive tract, even your skin doing its job of detoxifying, because that would be pointless. It took me a long while to find a product that was capable of doing this and didn't, gag you when you tried to swallow it, because I do have some competition out there, but usually it's twice the price. The products aren't as good, and it either tastes horrible or it tastes great because they do add artificial sweeteners and flavors into it that kind of, I think, don't get the whole point of having a detox.
No, that's true, but it's a lure.
Yeah, sure.
That's what it is.
Sure.
Oh, orange flavor.
No, I've had stuff
Apple.
that tastes like Jolly Ranchers candy, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. But why does it taste like Jolly Ranchers candy?
Why?
Because
It's added to it.
Yeah. So
it's taken away the importance of what it was.
Well, it gets in the
originally.
way of anything good in there actually doing its job.
Yes.
So we make sure that doesn't happen. So that's the detox, which is critically important. And to address another issue that Bobby talked about was soil depletion, big agri. Having to make all this food for all of these people that is the excuse of totally destroying the topsoil in this country. And their answer is, well, we'll just genetically modify the food in order to live in that toxic environment and live in all of the pesticides and herbicides that we cover our food in from the time they're a seed all the way through to the time that it's harvested, right? So again, a totally different topic, but I don't know whether genetic modification is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not going to get into that argument, but I do know that the sole purpose of genetically modifying food to live in a poisonous environment and then put it on your table, I think that probably isn't such a great idea.
No, I would
So
agree.
there's that. So to combat that,
I agree.
because I don't think there's a whole lot of debate on the drop in the nutritional value of the food that we're currently eating compared to the food that your parents were eating. I don't think that there's a big debate on that, but I'm sure somebody's going to argue with me on that. So to combat that, we also have a vitamin formula, but it's not like the most. I don't want to get sued, so I'm not going to mention any names. The big ones that you see all the commercials for. It's not from those monstrous chemical companies that supply most of the vitamins out there. These are something called activated vitamins, and what does that mean? So I'll tell you before we go to the break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about it. So if you go look at your vitamin label right now and you go down to vitamin B12, if you see that it is cyanocobalamin instead of methylcobalamin, cobalamin. And I know that's like Scrabble words, but just go down to vitamin B12. And if it says cyanocobalamin, guess what cyana stands for?
Cyanide.
Cyanide. Because it's the cheapest way to mass produce something that can technically be called vitamin B12. But the interesting thing about cobalamin is the way that it works is it's involved in the energy cycle, like the chemical cascade that produces energy in your cells, right? So that's what cobalamin does. And when cobalamin is matched with methyl, a methyl group, which is, it's complicated. I know this is kind of maybe too much biochemistry, but you attach a methyl group to cobalamin and the methyl group breaks off. The cobalamin does its job and the methyl group supports that. So it's all good. But when that cobalamin breaks off of cyanide in that pathway, you have cobalamin doing its job in the pathway, but you have cyanide going around and poisoning that whole process. So I'm not a big fan of most commercial vitamins, and that's why. And when we get back from the break, I'll break it down even better and give you some even more important information. You're listening to the Senior Hour, and it's hijacked today by Get Better X, KHTS, FM 98.1, AM 1220, hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Pilecki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And my guest is my co-host, Dr. Thomas Pilecki.
Yeah.
So let's continue.
Yeah, so we've been talking about the Get Better X platform. It starts off with the website at getbetterx.com. And from there, you can access my YouTube channel, my store, and we've talked a little bit about that too, and the books I've written for those who actually still read anymore. The reason for this platform was so well articulated by RFK Jr. in his speech the other night. I'd like to say that, I saw that speech and I created all this stuff in the past 2 days, but it's actually taken me decades to create this content and put it out there in this way to formulate these amazing supplements that there's few things that can compare at any price to what these products offer. And Barb, you've attested to that as well. The channel that you can link to at the bottom of the landing page here, my YouTube channel, gives in-depth, step-by-step how-to videos on pretty much every chronic condition out there for free. For free. There's no bait and switch here. There's no, now I need you to buy this $5,000 package for me. There's no, it's out there. This information is there for people to use. So there's literally no excuses about, you're just cashing in on the new trend of functional medicine. Not exactly. Not exactly. I've been doing this for a very long time. I was doing functional medicine before there was even a thing called functional medicine.
Yes.
And I've just, you've got to go with the verbs, the terminology that people can understand, or there's a lot of wasted conversation. So when I say functional medicine, it's what I've been doing all along. But now, people are aware of what that even means. Right. And for people who still don't know, because there are some people out there who don't know, functional, what does that mean? But I still run into that.
It's lots of information on that site, though.
Yeah. So functional medicine is, I believe, what you really want from your doctor when you go there. But instead, you get a cursory conversation that winds up with them writing a prescription and you walk out the door with that, pretty much. A lot. That's what happens in healthcare. But functional is a deeper dive. What are the contributing factors? What's beneath the symptom? Why is the symptom there? The symptom is just the alarm. The symptom is not the problem. So what is that alarm really telling us? Where is the fire in the house? What is triggering those alarms? What needs to be addressed? Is it lifestyle? Are you working too hard and not sleeping enough and then compensating for it by either stimulants or depressants to try to either, work through the night or get some sleep or stuff like that, which so many people are feel like they have no choice, but are forced to do. And then how does that upset the digestive tract and all the things that need to be going on to keep that part functioning normally, which is a critical balance that needs to be taken care of and not just doped up and covered up and, covered up with some pink goop so that you don't have to run to the bathroom or the other way. And the idea here is, how do we give the support that's necessary to get through the kind of stresses that we're all facing, the stresses in the quality of our food. Even if we try to be good, even if we try to eat right, the quality of our food is not what it used to be, period.
No, that's true. And that's why your supplements come into play.
Absolutely. So there's a link to the store right at the top of the page, and you can look at those supplements, which I helped develop. This isn't just a cut and paste, I'm going to slap my label on some stuff. These are high quality nutrients that are lacking from our diets, and it can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people. The last one is the probiotics. I want to touch on that for just a second because we're running out of time for today's show, but there's something called a microbiome in our body. It is our friendly bacteria that not just help digest our food, but it's a critical part of our immune system. It produces more brain chemistry than the brain itself does and is responsible for so many different functions in the body. And pretty much our lifestyle in today's day and age does everything to destroy that. So we've come up with 12 of the most researched probiotics in a formula that's stronger than anything else out there available. And that is, again, one of our best-selling products on the store at Get Better X. And that's essentially what the whole platform is about. Doing it right for the right reasons at a fraction of the cost of anything else out there to get you what you really want, which is living to 88, pretty much pretty healthy.
They have definitely helped me.
Yeah.
And helped me go through both of those sessions of cancer and beaten them.
Yep.
I got them in my 70s, my 80s, and I told my kids if I get it in my 90s, I'll beat it again.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. Thank you for that endorsement. You've been listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS 98.1 FM, AM 1220, hometownstation.com. We're brought to you by Comfort Keepers and Providence Holy Cross. Now go out and enhance your quality of life.